there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to this beautiful scenery and this video with me, where the topic will be on what we have actually chosen as our destined path, as certain agreements that we have, and how do we move through these patterns that just flow through us when there's the nature of the calling, when we have some work to do. So as you can see, I'm here in this beautiful scenery. This is called Lago del Predil. This is in Italy, in Italian Alps, right across the border of where I live. And this lake is one of my favorite places here where I live. So I really wanted to share this with you today in this space. So I will be sharing this topic with the special emphasis that what I'm going to be sharing does refer to certain type of souls, certain Ascension pioneers who really have come here to, in a way, shed certain patterns that are of the collective. What I need to make a distinction of here is that this is not a separation, intention here, because in a way, whether something that's just ours or karmic is the thing we have as an agreement to work on a soul level, or whether we do that on a collective level matters not, because it's all one shifting reality and it's all a great return back to love. So the emphasis here is that I would like to share this for those of you who really feel this on a deep cellular memory level, which means that when you hear something like that, or when you have it within your own memory, you really resonate with it. You kind of feel it so deep within you. You have goosebumps or tears of divine remembrance. So this is especially for those Ascension pioneers who feel this calling. So as you know, volunteer type souls, they don't have their own personal karma. They don't need to be here, but we have chosen to be here, which means that sometimes when we have those moments when we rather wish we wouldn't be here, we can go like, why am I here? I don't want to be, and we all have those moments. But I want to share in the depth feeling that might come through for the type of beings that are here just releasing certain essences that are not of love, and shifting them and really making them into what we're truly here for, to love, to be the essence of divine love. Well, each one, of course, within that framework will still have our own, assignments, and will still be unique and individualized. But the main emphasis here is to share with you how, when you have those things happening to you and you don't get it because you don't feel it as karmic, you don't feel like maybe you meet certain people that they're your soul family, your soul group, that you don't feel any greater affinity to them, but yet you're still experiencing things that you're experiencing as you're shedding so much, and so much comes through you, and a lot of times you feel intense feelings that you can't even describe why they're there. I'm going to give you one example within my own life. As we had within our building, around our building, they were chopping off major trees, like huge trees that were there probably for eons. And they just decided to tear them down because apparently they're dangerous to the buildings if the snow falls and the trees fall, so whatever. And they were just chopping them off. And whenever something like that happens, and this used to take place also when I still lived in the city, in the suburbia of the city, and I had those same feelings of great intensity, and I couldn't understand them. And I'm going to explain this to you from this example, and of course other things, but this is just one of the examples that can be, specified here. So whenever there was something like this happening, it's almost like this, this huge interference with nature and natural cycles, because of the human tendency to control things and think things through with our minds rather than the heart. Sometimes things like that happen, and although we know that compassion is not being judgmental about it, and knowing that within the hierarchy of things are for learning, things are for growth, for whatever it is, it still doesn't mean that there won't be, when such things happen, things, there, and pain that we can feel, and great sadness sometimes that comes with it. So a lot of us have chosen to come here to really remedy that, to remedy those primary essences of creation that were distorted in a way. So when something like this takes place, and how it was for me was, when this took place, I couldn't even control myself, but I just blasted out into tears. I was crying so much I couldn't logically explain what's happening. And the last time this happened as well, here in our building, was an example as well, and here's what happened. So as I was seeing what was happening, all of a sudden I had this burst of tears. Such great wave of sadness just it was just overflowing through me. And I couldn't really mentally, perceive what's happening, but I just felt such great sadness, because the tree spirits were leaving and everything looked so massacred there everywhere around, and it was just really terrible to look at. So, from a standpoint of divine compassion, we don't try to save or rescue things or think they're wrong or bad. It's just that we feel with whole life. We feel with things. We feel with these things, even though there might be messages there, whatever is happening. We have higher perspective, but we still feel those feelings. And a lot of us are just, like channels, like these pure vessels, so that these things can just flow through us. And there's an opening within us there also then therefore can be released, so we help then these energies to be released from the collective. It doesn't mean that we have to get personally involved with them. That happens only when we try to rescue or take this within ourselves as a burden, and we think we have the responsibility for the whole world at large. What's really important here, and I'm going to show you a short technique here for those of you who are on this path, is just to be aware of the feelings. Don't try to make a tantrum drama. Just be aware, accept them. My method is always releasing through tears, through crying, and when I do that, it's just like an instant shift back into bliss. So this is how we transform energy, and a lot of us are doing this also with sacred sexuality. We shift a lot of this energy with this sexuality, this pure life force that flows through us as an open channel for spirit within grace. So this example just shows us that there's sometimes things we won't always understand on this path. And as a beautiful being I know recently said that although everything is love and she's living a path of love, she still feels sadness. She still can feel pain for the world, for what's happening and all that's around us. And this is how it is, when we're this enlightened being, doesn't mean that now all of a sudden we're withdrawn from the world completely. We can never really do that as long as we're physically embodied on this planet. Our body is one with all the other bodies. It's one with the bodies of water, of mountains, of rivers, of hills, of everything, every living thing, every organic thing. So as we're connected to things on a creation level, we will just have these impulses that again flow from how creation is being treated, mistreated, all of that. So we will just be there, placed there as pillars of compassion in a way. And it's important for us to learn to not go into these things too emotionally, to allow ourselves the space to feel what flows through us, to allow ourselves whatever it is that needs to come through, even if that many times is in relationships. It's not karmic for those of us who are in this path, but we will be placed in situations or positions and in relationships that will trigger certain things that again we have vowed ourselves to help to be present with. So just our presence with these essences can help to purify them and lift them up on a higher refined level again, returning them to love. And there's a lot of us who are doing this, so maybe a lot of you might feel confused, and many times there's this perspective that we have patterns and something's wrong with us, but not all of these things are patterns. And this is where Spirit recently guided me to share about this distinction, that a lot of us have this like an inbuilt mechanism that has nothing to do with certain things being our pattern. There are patterns because we need the pattern on a physical level to participate in this, what we've agreed to do. So if you don't have that, then you're not there with, with the essence that wants to be transformed and transcended and transmuted in a way. So therefore, these patterns that we have are almost like we've taken them for a reason that is a higher purpose that's behind it that we don't always see. So a lot of times, in these New Age teachings, we'll be sure about the patterns and releasing our patterns, our reactions to things. And it's true, we do need to transform the reactions that stem from these patternings, because we have agreed to once again return to that state of complete observation, complete neutral compassion, still feeling but not moving into the emotional responses that are more drama based, and they're coming out of fear or lack of understanding. So to be, in a way, living in the two worlds is to feel things, but again be in that higher perspective of it and allow the energy to shift through divine love. And with that, we help divine love to return to the planet through these basic situations that are just triggers for the energy to come through, you know. So if you're one of those people who's asking yourself, is something wrong with me? Why can't I shift this pattern? Is it so deeply engraved? What's wrong with me? And a lot of these times in the spiritual realms, there's always this perspective that if we have patterns or we have certain things that are repetitive, then must be something wrong with us. And there's like this labeling present that constantly tells us something we need to work on, we need to work on, we need to work on. Well, I'll tell you that the only thing we really need to work on is the understanding of what is our truth. So if you're in this path, when you're really doing this on a collective level, you will feel this as your truth, and the only job you will have, your assignment will be to move from a reactive state of lack of understanding it and what you're really doing when these things are happening, and shifting it to an enlightened perspective and a responsive approach through neutral observation and returning back to divine love, because this is what we do, this is who we are. In relationships, it might be similar. So you have a certain lineage of repetitive things that happen to you in relationships. And if you're in this path that I'm talking about here, it's not so much that you have a relationship pattern that you need to deal with so you can have a better personal living reality, but it's something that you have chosen on a much deeper level, and usually you attract these individuals that you help in a way, or they help you also, you know what I mean. It's a mutual agreement to come into a situation that will have a certain triggering to bring that up to the surface, because I see still a lot of people don't get that, you know. It's a lot of things are still kept, you know, underneath the surface, so they can never really be fully understood through the depth of the core transformation that is occurring within the shift that we're undergoing. So for us, it's not so much like we have patterns and we need to change in our relationships, as we attract certain things because of the magnetism that we have due to our soul agreements. You know, a lot of times also in the New Age movement, you see people saying, you know, release your soul contracts, you don't need them, you know. We do always have soul contracts, because we always plan things on a soul level. Our higher self always pre-plans things that then we either follow or not. But the only thing, again, we need to let go of and dissolve is the again, the lack of awareness that is behind these contracts, and moving away from these detached scenarios into, again, a neutral observation of what's taking place and why. Because there's so much of this, and I feel it in myself, you know, when I move into the outer realms, what's being shared there, I can feel such restriction, because there's this constant perception of not being perfect enough. We need to deal with this and that, and we need to realize all the patterns, get rid of them. And I see sometimes people who do this, or even they write to me, they're struggling with this because they're constantly thinking there's something wrong with them by being a certain way, instead of working with their higher self and getting these higher confirmations directly from your soul, why your life is such and such and why certain things are the way they are for you. So I really put my heart on your heart to, again, invite you to take a full neutral observation of your life. How has it been so far? You know, when we do a life review, you know, just pondering about it, you know, places like this in nature, perfect for that. For me, it's always the mountains. And also, you can journal about it. You can do automatic writing about it, and you will see what things are repetitive, but then move deeper. What is the nature of this repetition? If you are a volunteer type soul, you will have a specific assignment that is behind it. And as you grow and evolve into your awareness of your exact core alignment, you will start to understand that better. And therefore, the contract is still there, because you do have an agreement of why you're here, and certain tinier agreements within the bigger scope of why you're here. But your reaction will change. You will start to really act differently. You will start to do that with joy. You will start to not see it as a victim or something you need to change, or constantly have this approach of not being good enough, of needing to heal. And this healing journey is really something that constantly eludes us if we don't understand that in truth it's nothing to heal, it's just to understand, to gain wisdom about, and then to really integrate that so that we can work with what we have contracted ourselves to do here on a higher level, instead of seeing it through these lowered, veil covered glasses. So this is what Spirit really wanted me to share today with all of you, because a lot of times when the mind plugs in, because your mind is directly linking to that which is offered to you a lot of times from the society or the new age or the media, whatever it comes from, even maybe that's something you've received in childhood, certain perception that something with you is wrong because you're so different than most. It's just that your assignments might be different, but in truth we are all love. We're all love at our core. But the more we start to understand this, the more unified we will become, the easier it will be to flow with what we have chosen for ourselves. And I'm getting these constant messages now that it's really time to embrace the full scope of why we're here. Because many times up until this point we had like these partial understandings, but we couldn't connect all the dots. So let's say you understood some of the things you were guided to do and you're doing, especially as an Ascension pioneer, but there were certain things you couldn't understand. Like, okay, I'm fine with what I do is within what I call my work. I have beautiful this and that, but why are relationships so hard for me? Or why is this so challenging for me? And this is just maybe something that's still a mystery to you. But then again, also allow it to be a mystery in the making as you grow into your awareness, to have a deeper understanding of why things are the way they are, and how you don't change them directly, but you actually influence the course of unfolding through becoming more aware, through becoming more neutral, through becoming more loving, through becoming more compassionate, without needing to save or rescue, just allowing. So let's say we're not here to suffer. We're not here to be devoured by, let's say, somebody chops trees, like it happened here, and you feel such pain, and then you're wallowing yourself in the pain. You become the pain itself. What I'm talking about here is the understanding of why you're here at a certain place, why you're feeling the things you're feeling, but then release them and transmute them. Again, return to love. Whatever is good for you. For me, releasing through crying works because that was always my method. I never knew that until I read somewhere that it's the Pleiadian essence of energy through release through crying, and I really resonate with that for me personally. But there's also a lot of other things. Crying, if you haven't noticed, when we start to cry, we start to have like grasp for air, and we start to breathe more deeply. So again, crying can be connected with breath, but it's also water, and it's like shedding this energy that is distorted, it's falsified, it's veiled, it's not of love, and then you really just pour love into it, you know. So it's more like you're dissolving certain things than you're trying to control, change them. Breath work is always the most important thing. So a lot of times, to shift our response to it instead of reacting, before we go into any mode that we're like, I can't understand, why does this always happen to me, why is it like this, just take 3 deep breaths. Everything will just start to shift. It will be perceived differently. A lot of the times our soul will give us messages that something in our life is no longer authentic, no longer working for us. So it will give us like this ending point. So something will maybe come to a conclusion, maybe there will be a distortion of something, or something will just rapidly, maybe something gets ruined, and along the way you're like, oh, what just happened? This happened to me recently, and I was so bummed because I worked on this project for so long and something went wrong, and I was like, oh, no, I was like, why? And before you really start to kill yourself off with this, hit your head against the wall, take a few deep relaxing breaths. And if you want to go in the changing of the exact thing by the moment, rather just leave it for a while, because that's how I do it. Go in your sacred space, just breathe, or whatever you're doing is your inner technique. It's not really a technique, it's just the way you move and return to love, whatever works for you. And as you're gonna feel this wave of peace again, you will see the approach to a situation differently. New opportunities will be offered to you, and guidance will show you why this happened in the first place, because maybe it was a message for you that something no longer works for you, or the way you think about things no longer is authentic, or it's aligned with your greater being, or you think this is enough, but you deserve more and you can have more. So just observe, because remember, it's the awareness within us that creates your life, not just the things that are passing by like thoughts and just random emotional waves. It's the awareness that is behind all things, that is neutral, it's pure, it's source based, and really is of love. So much for today. I hope this was helpful. Tongue-tied. Sun really dosed me up with this immense light being frequency. So if you're one of those beings, I hope this was helpful for you in a way. This was really hard to pronounce. So I'll talk to you again soon. I'm having a beautiful short retreat in the mountains with this beautiful sunny weather for a while. So I'll see you back soon. Keep yourself on track. Keep yourself in an aware state of being. And as always, so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care.